and it just didn't hit the mark with me at all. There's a certain energy and a certain, I guess, joie de vivre to this, um, which was lost on me. Uh,
Fair, fair. That's cool. I just thought if you had room in your heart for the Ting Tings, you'd have room in your heart for this. Uh,
I knew you'd say something along those lines. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles. My name's John. His name is Andy. Didn't have the money round to buy a Mori Thou. Been around and seen a lot to shake me, anyhow. Begged and borrowed sometimes, I admit I even stole. But the worst crime I ever did was playing rock and roll. But the money's no good. More on that later. But first, we have a track to listen to, selected by Andy. Andy, what do you got?
Today, what I have in store is a group called Guerilla Toss or Guerilla Toss, depending on what part of the world you're from, but we pronounce it Guerilla like the warfare. Toss. And the name of the track is Can I Get the Real Stuff? So, have you ever heard of these guys before? I assume no, judging by the look on your face, but okay. All right, gotcha. Cool. Well, there's some interesting information about them I think you might find cool, and I think you might, we'll see, enjoy giving this thing a spin. So let us know what you think, my friend.
Okay. Interesting. Knowing how much Andy always says how non-organic sounds are not his cup of tea, and he doesn't like synth pop. Um, this sounds like parts of this are straight out of the 80s. That second synth line is fatter and wiggly. Definitely sounds like something from early Vince Clarke, Depeche Mode type stock. The first synth part that came in is a little bit more manic. And with the thumbnail there, it sort of does make me feel like it's intended for a younger audience. It sounds a bit sort of cartoonish almost. And you've got this, drum machine beat over the top as well. Let's see where it goes. It's slipping as well a bit. We've got different sections that seem to be recycling. So the vocals start, they're quite shouty. And again, sounds quite immature, the young end, sort of like shouty, and then the groove vocals come in. It does sound very schoolyard, playgroundy. Um, you'd be surprised to hear, not my cup of tea. And then we get this sort of almost like psyche trippy type bit, and there's some interesting stuff going on. It's almost like drone sounds. I think they're almost trying to sound sitar-ish in a way. It's a nice little bass line as they come out of it, and then we're back into sort of isolated miss shouty because you want to hear a shouting much clearer and a sort of cloppy beat. And then when it goes into it, kind of gets the highest synth, the first synth part seems to go a bit manic. I don't know if they're like pitch shifting a little bit or something, but it's definitely sort of like sounds like it's coming unhinged almost. There's sort of mania behind it. Yeah, I haven't got a clue what's going on. And then all the air let out of it. Yeah. Okay, it was an interesting choice from Andy. I'm sure he'll love that. Mind you, see, I've said things like I don't like prog, and then I've given something that sounds quite proggy, and even stuff that sounds a bit sort of dramatic, and I hope sort of a musical style drama. So it's the exception that proves the rule. So we're all allowed our little idiosyncrasies, as it were. But yeah, this I can't say I enjoyed it. Tried to keep an open mind, but yeah, the overall tone of the vocals just found annoying, and I didn't particularly enjoy the synthy part. I quite like the sort of trippy element, but I don't know how you can make that into a whole song. So yeah, not one for me. But let's find out some more about them. Let's go back and chop it up with Andy.
All right. So you are back. So please, tell us, did you get the real stuff?
Not sure. So it starts with this synth pop sound. I'm surprised to hear myself say. It sounds a bit like sort of early Depeche Mode stroke Vince Clarke, but on speed. So it's popping away. The drum machine beats add a sound, the spirit of the 80s to the mix. And I believe at the start, particularly when you can hear it clearer, there's some slipping going on, which I think is deliberate, but it definitely doesn't sort of stick to the beat. It comes in and back again. The first synth line taps away incessantly like some sort of insect, and then it's joined by a fatter wriggling line, which I think is like synth bass. The vocalist then comes in, and I have to say, not really my cup of tea. It sounded almost cartoonish, very sort of shouty adolescent voice. And when they're joined by the others repeating the mantra, "Can I get?" it does sound more than a whiff of the old school playground sort of vocals. And I think that's probably the thing which I had the most issue with in this song was the vocals that didn't agree with me at all.
Interesting.
It's my thing, but there you go. I think at points there's some pitch shifting going on with the first synth part, I should call it. It definitely, I'm sure there's some changing of, but like They can waggle on a keyboard player, but you can do it and sort of bend the pitch up and down. I
Hmm.
think there's stuff of that going on, and then we get like almost like a jump cut um, to a very cloppy percussion sound. I mean, it's not a pair of coconuts, but it could well be the sort of synth version of, um, with more vocals, with a little more shouty, and then another tranche of "Can I Gets." Um, the higher synth part in this bit is starting to definitely wander from the yellow brick road and is getting very unhinged. Um, really interesting, actually. I quite enjoyed that bit. Um, we then break into a kind of psych trippy break, um, where we've got these expansive sort of chords and also droning sounds. I think some of them almost are trying to, or they're on the verge of sounding almost sitar-ish in a way. The way that sort of
Hmm.
um, they resonate, and then it comes out with some nice little funky bass hits. We then get more isolated shouty vocals with that thumping beat, and this is I can hear the lyrics clear as day at this point. For some reason, they stuck in. Streak above the eyelid, sparkled like pastry. She wants the metallics, Tin Man like shiny. Anyway, we circle through the Can I Gets with this frantic synth section again, um, and then cycle through the trippy Can I Get the real stuff, um, which sort of takes us to the end, and the notes sort of drop down like a deflated balloon. Um, yeah, it didn't really hit for me at all, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It's not. It's just that's the way it is. I think I think what they were going for, and they won't be devastated to hear that it missed with me, not being a target audience, but I think they went for this sort of like dancey, indie, punky type sound thing, which I think is more prevalent in America than here. I think. And it just didn't hit the mark with me at all. There's a certain energy and a certain, I guess, joie de vivre to this, um, which was lost on me. Uh,
Fair, fair. That's cool. I just thought if you had room in your heart for the Ting Tings, you'd have room in your heart for this.
I knew you'd say something along those lines.
And that's the intro. So yeah, I thought this had a pretty good
Right,
chance with you, but I'm
let's add it to the list. Ting tings,
I am
and we
glad
shall compare. We should compare.
I am glad you're being honest with me nonetheless. No, I appreciate your input on this. I just thought it was interesting because there's some stuff about this band that's been written
I will.
about them, and that other groups have chimed in and said things about them that I thought would be interesting to you. Go ahead.
No, I was surprised by this, knowing previous discussions and your sort of not overt fondness for non-organic stuff and synth pop not being your cup of tea. How and likewise, I would say this is not my cup of tea. But likewise, I've said to you in the past before that I can't stand proggy stuff, and then giving you War of the Worlds.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I don't like dramatic musical theatre stuff, and they give you something and you go, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
There's always the exception that proves the rule,
There
like
is, yeah.
vice versa. I'm not going to sort of hold your feet under a flame to that at all.
No, no.
Um,
I
and exactly, and I would say the first person to say that I don't really like synth pop, and yet I could probably give you at least a dozen songs that are early 80s synth pop, which
Yep,
I absolutely adore, and I
yep.
have done
I was
with
gonna
like
say you have
Yazoo.
done in the past, and I've
Yeah.
been
So,
honest with you. So it's like the
yeah.
tables are turning yet again.
And
Um,
it's weird because I could probably pick a song, I can't think of one, but there may be a song that's similar to this, which will have a special place in my heart because I heard it on the school bus or whatever.
yeah,
And then I give it to you, and you go, "Hang on a minute, this is very similar to this,"
yeah.
but it didn't. But on the first listen, this didn't land with me.
Hey, and that's fine.
Wasn't terrible, just didn't land.
Great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not super in love with these guys or anything. I just there's a handful of songs by them that I really like, and they also have some interesting ties and to other groups in a way that I think is interesting and that you'll like because I know you appreciate those groups. Um, but there are a handful of their songs that I do really like. I also think that they're a bit more organic than perhaps you're under the impression of giving this just this one listen. So,
Sure.
but yeah, Guerilla Toss. They are an American rock band formed in Boston in 2011, now based in New York City. The group currently consists of singer Cassie Carlson, drummer Peter Negroponte, guitarist Arian Shafi, keyboardist Jake Lichter, and bassist Zach Llewellyn. Guerilla Toss has released 6 studio albums, 7 EPs, and 3 remix albums on various underground labels, DFA Records, and more recently on Sub Pop. They were listed in Rolling Stone magazine as one of the 10 great modern punk bands, and Henry Rollins, who I know you love, has called them one of the first great bands of the new century. Guerilla Toss's earlier work has been labeled as art rock, no wave, noise rock, and punk, namely for their odd time signatures and dissonant instrumentals. Throughout the years, critics noted the addition of psych, krautrock, new wave, funk, and dance music elements to the band's sound, often being compared to artists like the Talking Heads, the B-52s, Boredoms, Brian Eno, and Grace Jones. In 2011, Andy Allen and Peter Negroponte formed an early instrumental version of Guerilla Toss that played a mix of free jazz and punk. Singer Cassie Carlson joined the band in 2012, replacing Allen. Carlson first met Guerilla Toss when her former hardcore band Western Syndrome performed with the group at a house show. Around this time is when Guerilla Toss's members considered the band to have truly started. Guerilla Toss toured extensively nationally and within Boston's DIY community by performing at many show houses such as Gay Gardens, where Carlson and Negroponte were both residents on separate occasions. Later that year, Guerilla Toss released their first EP, Jeffrey Johnson, through Feeding Tube Records. In May 2013, they released an EP, G Toss, through Static Records, which is spelled TZ, but I think it's meant to sound like static. The record label owned by avant-garde composer John Zorn. The group then released another EP later that year, Kicked Back into the Crypt, a split LP with the noise rock band The Sediment Club, and that was co-released through Sophomore Lounge Records and Feeding Tube Records jointly. Guerilla Toss began to incorporate disco and funk elements into their sound, as shown with the release of their debut LP, Gay Disco, through NNA Tapes in December of 2013. In July 2014, they released their next EP, 367 Equalizer, through Infinity Cat Recordings. Towards the end of 2014, the band released the EP Smack the Brick through NNA Tapes. Guerilla Toss wrapped up the year by going on a US and European tour that included the fourth to last show at New York City warehouse venue Death by Audio with the band The OCs. Guerilla Toss relocated to New York City during the summer of 2015. On June 24th of that year, the band opened for seminal Boston post-punk band Mission of Burma in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. The band's leader, Roger Miller, is a self-proclaimed fan. Adding to Guerilla Toss's growing popularity, Chris Peterson and Jonathan Galkin of DFA Records, the record label co-founded by James Murphy of LCD Sound System, signed Guerilla Toss to the label. The band's first release through them was the EP Flood Dosed in October 2015, which was met with growing acclaim. Around this time, the band began varying their set lists and jamming during their live performances, in addition to encouraging tapers to come and check out their show, citing the Grateful Dead as inspiration, which is really interesting given the genre that these guys occupy, and to emulate a jam. Punk is so like rarely like, yeah, go out on a limb and experiment with something different. It's like, stick to the book. We're not that talented. 2.5-minute songs, in and out, bing, bang, boom. So it's fun for them to, emulate a band so foreign sounding, comparatively speaking. In March 2016, Guerilla Toss released their album Eraser Stargazer through DFA Records. It was recorded during the winter of 2015 in Livingston Manor, New York. Not ones for resting on their laurels, the band released two more recordings in 2016. One of them was a remix EP of Eraser Stargazer and Gay Disco titled Giant Claw vs. Gorilla Toss, which was released in May 2016 through DFA Records. The other release was their first live album, Live in Nashville, which was recorded at the End in Nashville, Tennessee on March 11th, 2016 during the Eraser Stargazer tour. The album was released in June 2016 on vinyl via Feeding Tube Records and digitally via DFA Records. And in June 2017, Guerilla released GT Ultra, their second full-length album release on DFA Records. The LP received positive reviews. Popular YouTuber and music critic Anthony Fontano gave the album an 8 out of 10, saying, "Thanks to some clearer production, more upfront performances, and a zany new wave influence, GT Ultra is the most I've ever enjoyed a Gorilla Toss album," and included it on his loved list of that year, 2017. Their sixth full-length album, Twisted Crystal, was released on September 14th, the next year, 2018. An EP titled What Would the Odd Do was released on NNA Tapes October 18th of 2019. The band continued to tour, opening for Battles in Toronto, Chicago, Brooklyn, and Boston in December of 2019. On June 15th of 2020, the band released two songs as part of their Sub Pop 7th Club, Human Girl and Own Zone. In January of 22, Guerilla Toss announced that they had signed to Sub Pop and released their next album, Famously Alive, through the label on March 25th, 2022. They released the album's first single, Cannibal Capital, on January 12th of 2022, and the LP received positive reviews. Shortly after Famously Alive was released, Stephen Malkmus, who had seen the band perform in 2019, personally asked Guerilla Toss to open for his band Pavement on their 2022 reunion tour. It was announced in May that they would open in San Francisco, Troutdale, and Seattle. They were later added to the Toronto and Boston Pavement shows as well. So yeah, interesting, different. I mean, you've got Henry Rollins, Pavement, people all different, areas of rock music. It's kind of interesting. So yeah, the in July of 2022, Guerilla Toss released the single Zoom Hers on the official tribute album for Noi through Gronland Records. On October 28th, 2022, Guerilla Toss released the single Heathen Money on a compilation called The 11th Hour, Songs for Climate Justice, curated by Sub Pop and film director Adam McKay. All of the proceeds from the compilation go to the Climate Energy Fund. On January 20th and 24th, it was announced that Guerilla Toss would be opening for Primus and Coheed and Cambria on their summer co-headline tour. Another couple of bands that are just all over the place in this rock sphere. This track, Can I Get the Real Stuff, features on the band's fifth album, the aforementioned 2017's GT Ultra. Reviewing the album for, brace yourself here, John, Pitchfork, Jesse Jarnell wrote that the album is anything but monochromatic, but its energy also feels occasionally constrained by its own parameters, with Carlson's lyrics and the band's arrangements pogoing at the edge of total freedom and perhaps total chaos. In the review for Tiny Mixtapes, Leah B. Levinson called it an album that is full of musical ingenuity and aural pleasures. Writing for independent music website Post Trash, Max Friedman reviewed the album and the track and offered up, "The album's glothy synth pops, robust drum machines, and sung-spoken vocals are nevertheless thoroughly engaging. Even though some might miss vocalist Cassie Carlson's hysteric near screams and the band's jolting six-string stabs, GT Ultra is a pretty stellar album." Adding, "Can I Get the Real Stuff, for instance, is spastic and bouncy, as one might expect from Guerilla Toss. But the squelching synth leads, the clickety-clackety percussion, and Carlson's heartfelt musings represent intriguing growths toward pop's universal charm. Far from a wild, amazing shit show, as an early Guerilla Toss song might lovingly be described, its unquestionably heightened production is instead the driving force, as is often the case on GT Ultra. So that kind of gives you a glimpse into what their sound was before they put out this more experimental sound on GT Ultra. So lyrics: molten liquid metal, glimmering glitter, a pigment she'd been teasing. Pang became craving. Oh, can I get several more can I get removing the layers, caked on the surface, an icon from the modern, once futuristic. Oh, can I get several more can I get personal persona? Can I get the real stuff? Swimming in the makeup. Creature became dreamer. Streak above the eyelid. Sparkled like pastry. She wants the metallics. Tin Man like shiny. Oh, can I get several more can I get personal persona? Can I get the real stuff? Swimming in the makeup. Creature became the dreamer. Can I get the real stuff? Personal persona. Swimming in the makeup. Creature became the dreamer. So the track explores the pursuit of authenticity in a modern world filled with superficiality, commercialism, and digital artifice. The lyrics use experimental, often chaotic language as a metaphor for searching for genuine emotion, raw experience, and sincerity rather than artificial or fake substitutes. So there you go, John. A lot about a band you really didn't like that much.
Yeah, it's interesting from what you said. I think they're sort of see, punk is a very difficult label. There's a very, in my
Yeah.
heart, there's a very narrow bandwidth which punk is. Um, and a lot of what is described as punk, both in US terms and in modern terms, I think is nothing like punk to me. However, I recognise this that spirit of punk is very different to the the sort of as you refer to that sort of narrow, you know, these F bar chords and that's about it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, I get that, but I think from what you described, that the sort of earlier stuff would probably be more up my alley.
Yeah.
Um,
And maybe even a couple other things off this album, because this album is really good. It's just I chose a song that you didn't really like that much, and that's
oh,
fine.
fair enough.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That's is what it is. Um, but I do think that there's other stuff. I think I will probably curate something from their earlier stuff to give you an idea of what they sounded like then, and just to give them a second chance. I mean, far be it from us to have to adhere to what others say. But I mean, there are some pretty shining endorsements throughout. I mean, to be asked to contribute to a Noi album, tribute album, and with, whether you like him or not, Henry Rollins, who is an icon in the sort of hardcore and punk scene, at least from our side of the pond, and Pavement, all, having, and Sub Pop signing them. There's got to be something there, right? So and I'm sure you reserve total judgment on the band. You're just talking about this song, obviously.
Yeah, I
Um,
can keep an open mind.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So maybe we'll revisit them. And I don't know if there's anybody out there in the listening audience. I'm sure that there's probably a handful. Wouldn't surprise me if maybe like Kevin or Mr. Cryer was interested, had listened to these guys before in the past, as regular commenters on some of our other episodes. But if anybody, those two or any of the other listeners out there, are familiar with Gorilla Toss and would like to offer up a track for a future Friday episode, please feel free to do so down below, and we'll definitely get it added to the list. But John, thanks for being a sport about giving this thing a go. And keeping your mind, as you said, open to another possibility and perhaps a better song choice on my part or one of our lovely listeners out there. I
Oh,
happen to love the flighty, manic, over caffeinated. I can't listen to it all the fucking time, but in certain instances, I need this kind of energy kick, and it offers that for me. So
yeah, not a problem at all. I had worse when I went shopping.
I bet you did. I bet you heard worse when you were doing those overnight stocking of the shelves jobs too. But yeah,
Pearl Jam.
Pearl Jam, of course. Oh, that reminds me, I've got to get Temple of the Dog on here. Guys out there in the listening audience, please feel free to let us know your thoughts down below. If you liked it, if you were more in John's camp on this particular track, whatever, I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. Also, please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done any or all of those things. It goes a long way to help us here at the channel. And hopefully John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.